Frank Daniels looked out the window of the space station. The stars seemed cold and distant today. He had been an admiral in Earth's space fleet for 20 years. Now, at 55, he faced the most important day of his career. "Are you ready, sir?" asked Kate Rodriguez. She was 38 and had worked as Earth's main diplomat for 5 years. Frank nodded. "As ready as I'll ever be." The Galactic Council meeting room was huge. 50 different alien species sat in tall chairs around a circle. Some had scales, others had fur. Some had 6 arms, others had none. All of them looked down at the 3 humans who stood in the center. "The council recognizes the human delegation," said Zalvorth. He was tall and blue with 4 eyes that blinked at different times. As the council speaker, his word was final. "You have filed a complaint about Resolution 87 Delta. Please tell us your concerns." Frank stepped forward. He had practiced this speech for weeks. He knew the council would not like what he had to say. "Speaker Zalvorth, honored council members," Frank began. "For 30 years humanity has been part of this council. We have followed your rules. We have shared our resources. We have fought in your wars." He paused, looking at each alien face. Most showed no emotion. Some showed boredom. Yet after 30 years we are still treated as newcomers. We are still limited in where we can go and what we can do. The latest resolution gives the Hazari Collective 43 star systems. It gives humans only 12. A green alien with a long neck made a noise that sounded like laughter. "The Hazari have been council members for 500 years. You humans are still children in galactic terms." Frank nodded. "Yes, we are young, but we learn quickly. And we have learned that this council does not treat all members equally." Whispers spread around the room. Zalvorth banged a glowing rod on his desk. "Order! Admiral Daniels, what exactly are you saying?" Kate stepped forward and handed Frank a small black box. He pressed a button and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed a document with Earth's official seal. "This is not a complaint," Frank said. "This is a formal notice. As of today, Earth and all human colonies are leaving the Galactic Council." The room erupted in noise. Some aliens jumped to their feet. Others shouted in languages that the translator struggled to keep up with. Zalvorth banged his rod again and again. "Silence!" he finally shouted. The room quieted. "Admiral Daniels, you cannot be serious. No species has ever left the Council." "Then, we will be the first," Frank said. "We have tried to work within your system. We have tried to be patient. But after 30 years of being treated as second-class citizens, we have decided that independence is better than submission." Alan Wright, Earth Science Advisor, stepped forward. He was 60 with gray hair and kind eyes, but today his eyes were hard. "You have blocked our research," Alan said. "You have called our discoveries too dangerous when they simply made us more equal to you. You have kept us from growing as a species." The alien with the long neck stood up. "This is outrageous. Humans are too aggressive, too unpredictable to be allowed full access to galactic technology." Frank smiled. It was not a happy smile. "That is exactly why we are leaving. You fear us, you always have, and you have used that fear to keep us down." Zalvorth looked troubled. "If you leave the Council, you lose all protection. There are many dangers in the galaxy that you know nothing about." "We will take our chances," Frank said. "Better to face danger as a free people than to live safely in a cage." Small alien with purple skin and large eyes spoke up. "What about our trade agreements? The resources we provide to Earth?" Kate Rodriguez answered this one. "We have prepared for this day for years. We have stockpiled what we need, and we have made private agreements with several trading species who value our business more than Council rules." Mutters of impossible and their bluffing filled the room. Frank held up his hand. "We are not bluffing. The human fleet has already been ordered to return to Earth space. Our diplomats on Council worlds are packing their belongings. This is happening now." Zalvorth stood up. He towered over the humans. "If you do this, there is no coming back. The Council does not forgive rebellion." Frank met his 4-eyed gaze. "We are not rebelling. We are simply leaving. We wish the Council well. We hope to have peaceful relations with all species, but we will not be ruled by those who do not respect us. The three humans turned to leave. As they walked toward the door, a voice called out. It was a small alien with skin like golden leaves. The Falari stand with the humans, the alien said. We too have suffered under council restrictions. Another voice joined in. The Duroni also question these policies. Salvorth's voice boomed out. This meeting is over. We will discuss this in private session. Frank, Kate, and Alan walked through the grand doors of the council chamber. As the doors closed behind them, they heard the rising sound of arguments. Well, Kate said, that went about as expected. Frank nodded. Now comes the hard part. We have to make it on our own. Back on their ship, Frank looked at the message from Earth. President Elaine Schwartz had sent just one sentence. Whatever happens, we are with you. As their ship pulled away from the council station, Frank watched the massive structure grow, smaller. For 30 years, that station had represented humanity's place in the galaxy. Now it represented their past. Set course for Earth, Frank said to the pilot. It's time to go home and build our own future. The ship's engines glowed blue and they leapt into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, the news was already spreading through the galaxy. Humanity had left the council, and nothing would ever be the same again. 6 months had passed since Earth left the Galactic Council. They called it Liberation Day now. People celebrated it with fireworks and speeches about freedom. But for Olivia Martinez, freedom meant something else. It meant flying her scout ship into places that used to be forbidden. How's it looking, Sam? Olivia asked. She was 42, with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. As the commander of the scout ship Horizon, she led the exploration of space that the Council had declared off limits. Samuel Powell looked up from his screens. He was the science officer, young and eager. It's amazing, Commander. These readings don't make sense. According to the Council, this nebula should be full of radiation and spatial tears. And what do you actually see? Olivia asked, though she already knew the answer. Sam's face lit up with excitement. Rare elements. More than I've ever seen. Metals that Earth needs badly. And not a hint of danger. Olivia nodded. Another council lie exposed. Take all the readings you can. We'll send them back to Earth. The Veil Nebula glowed blue and green outside their viewports. For decades, the Council had marked it as a danger zone. Ships that entered never returned, they said. But now Olivia knew the truth. Ships never returned because the Council captured them. They wanted to keep these riches for themselves. Other human ships were making the same discoveries across the galaxy. Areas marked as unstable or dangerous were often the richest in resources. The Council had been hoarding them, keeping younger species from growing too powerful. Back on Earth, Dr. Patricia Garner worked in her lab. Before Liberation Day, her research had been blocked at every turn. The Council said her work on faster-than-light travel was too advanced for humans. Now she worked day and night free of those limits. Try it now, she said to her assistant. They activated the small model engine. It hummed softly, then a tiny field of blue light formed around it. On the screens, energy readings spiked. It works, her assistant cried. Patricia allowed herself a small smile. If this scales up as I think it will, we can make ships that travel 5 times faster than before. A journey that took weeks will take days. In Washington, D.C., President Elaine Schwartz prepared to address the United Nations. 6 months after leaving the Council, she needed to show that the risky move had been worth it. People of Earth, she began, standing tall despite the pressure on her shoulders. 6 months ago, we took a leap of faith. We left the protection of the Galactic Council to stand on our own. She paused, letting the silence build. Today I can report that our faith was justified. We have discovered 17 new planets suitable for human life. We have established trade with 14 non-council species. Our industrial output has increased by 300%. The room erupted in applause. President Schwartz raised her hand for quiet. But our journey is just beginning. The Council has threatened to block our expansion. They have moved warships to the edges of our space. They are afraid of what we might become without their control. After the speech, the president met with her advisors in a secure room. Among them was Jake Miller, the head of Earth's communication network. "Madam President," Jake said, "there's something you should know. We've been receiving strange messages from the outer rim of the galaxy. They're not from any species we know." The president looked concerned. "Are they threats?" Jake shook his head. "No, they seem almost welcoming, but they're hard to translate. It's as if whoever is sending them has been watching us for a long time. They congratulate us on our awakening, whatever that means. Meanwhile, on the colony world of New Terra, farmers planted the first crops in soil that the Council had claimed was toxic to human plants. The seeds sprouted in days, growing faster and stronger than on Earth. Back on the horizon, Olivia gave the order to return home. They had collected enough data for now. As they turned away from the nebula, Sam called her over to his station. "Commander, I'm picking up a signal. It's faint, but definitely artificial." Olivia looked at the readings. "Can you tell where it's coming from?" Sam pointed to a spot on the star chart. "From there. But that's deep in Council space. No one should be out there sending signals to us." Olivia made a quick decision. "Record it. We'll take it back to Earth." Intelligence, it could be important. The signal contained only 3 words repeated over and over. "You are right." As the horizon jumped to faster than light speed, other ships across human space were making similar discoveries. The galaxy was full of secrets that the Council had kept hidden, and not all of them were about resources. In a hidden base on Mars, military leaders studied reports from the edge of human space. Council ships had been spotted, just watching. They hadn't attacked yet, but everyone knew it was only a matter of time. "We need more ships," General Peter Jackson said. "If they decide to attack, we're outnumbered." Admiral Frank Daniels, now back from his historic council meeting, shook his head. "Numbers aren't everything. With Dr. Garner's new drive systems, our ships will be faster, and we have surprises they don't know about." One such surprise was taking shape in orbit around Jupiter, a new type of defense platform that used technology the Council had banned. It could detect ships from 10 times the distance of previous sensors. On Earth, regular people felt the changes too. Jobs were plentiful as new industries sprang up. Schools taught children about the wider galaxy without Council-approved filters. The sense of possibility was everywhere, but not everyone was happy. Some feared the Council's power. Others had grown comfortable with the old ways. A small but vocal group called for Earth to apologize and asked to rejoin the Council. President Schwartz addressed these concerns in private meetings with community leaders. "Change is always scary," she told them. "But we can't go back. The Council would never trust us again. They would punish us for daring to leave. Our only path is forward." As the 6-month mark of Liberation Day arrived, celebrations broke out. Across Earth and its colonies, people danced in streets decorated with stars and spaceships. Children waved flags showing Earth breaking free from chains. On the horizon, now docked at Earth's main space station, Olivia watched the celebrations on a screen. Sam joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Do you think we did the right thing?" he asked. "Leaving the Council?" Olivia took a sip of coffee and thought about the nebula, about the strange signal, about all the lies they had discovered. "I think we're just starting to find out how right we were," she said. 1 year after humanity left the Galactic Council, the galaxy was changing. Earth was not alone anymore. 2 more species had left the Council. First the Talaxians, then the Durrani. Others were thinking about it too. Jack Newman sat in a meeting room on the neutral space station Waypoint. Across from him was Krelox, the leader of the Talaxian Federation. Krelox had 6 thin arms and skin that you could almost see through. The Talaxians were peaceful traders who had been in the Council for 500 years. "You have started something amazing," Krelox said. His voice sounded like gentle bells. "For 12,000 years, the Council has controlled the galaxy. No one dared to question them until humans showed it was possible." Jack smiled. He was 50, gray at the temples, and Earth's first ambassador to the independent worlds. We just wanted to be free. We didn't mean to start a revolution. But a revolution was happening. All across the galaxy, planets were rising up against Council control. Some wanted to join Earth. Others just wanted to be left alone. The Council was sending soldiers to stop them, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. The Council has called an emergency meeting, Krelock said. They are scared. 3 Council members have left in 1 year. It never happened before. They think more will follow. Jack nodded. Will more follow? Krelock's skin rippled, which was how Talaxians showed amusement. The Vorax are ready to announce their departure next week. The Benturi will follow soon. After the meeting, Jack sent an encrypted message back to Earth. President Schwartz needed to know that their stand against the Council was having a bigger effect than anyone had expected. On the colony world of New Hope, Dr. Lisa Chen welcomed visitors from 7 different species. They had all come for the first Open Science Initiative. It was a direct challenge to one of the Council's most important rules. New technology had to be approved by the Council before anyone could use it. Welcome, friends, Lisa said to the group. She was 45 and had studied alien biology all her life. Today we begin something new. We will share our knowledge freely without limits. An alien that looked like a tall insect stepped forward. The Council will call this illegal. They will say we are dangerous. Lisa nodded. They will. But together, we can solve problems that have troubled our peoples for centuries. Isn't that worth the risk? The scientists set up their labs and began to work together. Humans shared their medical knowledge. The insect-like Viridians shared their understanding of plant life. The rock-skinned Groaners showed how to build stronger materials. Within days, they had made breakthroughs that would have taken years under Council rules. They found a cure for a disease that was killing Talaxian children. They created a new way to grow food in harsh environments. They built machines that could clean polluted water in hours instead of months. Each discovery was shared with all free worlds. No patents, no secrets, no holding back knowledge to gain power. It was the opposite of how the Council had worked for thousands of years. On Earth, Admiral Frank Daniels watched a report on these developments. He was in the main fleet command center, surrounded by screens showing the positions of Council ships. More and more Council vessels were gathering at the edges of human space. They're getting ready to attack, said General Maria Foster. They need to make an example of us before more species leave. Frank studied the screen. Maybe, but they know we've been building defenses, and they don't know everything we can do. Now, one thing the Council didn't know was how fast human ships had become. Dr. Garner's new drive system had been installed on all major vessels. Council ships would expect to have time to react if humans attacked. They would be wrong. Another thing they didn't know was how many friends Earth had made. Species that had been neutral for centuries were secretly providing resources, information, and even weapons, but Frank hoped it wouldn't come to war. Keep watching them, he ordered. But don't provoke them. We don't want to fire the first shot. The frontier world of Liberty, Olivia Martinez had been promoted. Now she commanded a small fleet of exploration vessels. They pushed farther and farther into space that the Council had marked as forbidden. Commander, called out her communications officer. We're receiving a message from a system 20 light-years ahead. It's not using any standard frequency. Olivia moved to look at the screen. Can you clean it up? After a moment, words appeared. We have waited. You are ready now. Come find us. Olivia's heart beat faster. This was like the other strange messages that ships had been picking up. But this one had a clear source. Set course for those coordinates, she ordered. Full speed. Back on Earth, President Schwartz faced reporters from all human colonies. The questions were tough. Madam President, the Council has cut off all official trade with Earth. How will we get the resources we need? The President stood tall. We have new trade partners. Species that were never allowed into the Council are eager to work with us. And our exploration teams find new resources every day in regions the Council claimed were empty. Another reporter asked, "Is it true that some council species are helping us secretly?" The president smiled. "I can't comment on diplomatic matters that might put others at risk, but I will say this. Many in the council have watched our progress with great interest." In orbit around Mars, the first ship built entirely with post-council technology prepared for its maiden voyage. The North Star was smaller than council warships, but packed with innovations that would have been illegal a year ago. Captain Ryan Phillips stood on the bridge, feeling the smooth hum of engines that used half the fuel of old models. "All systems, check out," reported his second-in-command. "We're ready for the test run." Ryan gave the order, and the North Star moved away from Mars. At his command, it accelerated to speeds no human ship had reached before. The stars blurred outside the viewports. "Jump drive online," called out the navigator. This was the real test. The new jump drive could take them farther in one leap than old drives could manage in 5. "Jump," Ryan ordered. There was a moment of strange quiet, then a flash of light. When it cleared, they were near Jupiter. A journey that would have taken days had happened in seconds. The crew cheered. Ryan allowed himself a smile. "Send the results to Fleet Command," he said. "The North Star is fully operational." As the North Star returned to Mars, 50 more ships like it were under construction in orbital shipyards. Earth was preparing, not just for conflict with the Council, but for a new age of exploration. On New Hope, the Open Science Initiative had grown. Hundreds of scientists now worked together. Among them was Alan Wright, who had stood with Frank Daniels that day in the council chamber. "I've just received word from Earth," he told the gathered scientists. "The North Star test was successful. The jump drive works perfectly." An alien with features like a lioness nodded her massive head. "The council will see this as a threat." "Everything we do is a threat to them," Alan replied. "Freedom is what they fear most." As night fell on New Hope, the scientists continued their work. On Liberty, Olivia's fleet jumped toward the mysterious signal. On Earth, children looked up at the stars and dreamed of visiting them. And at the edges of human space, council ships watched and waited. The council had ruled for 12,000 years. They would not give up power easily. But for the first time in memory, the galaxy was changing. And humanity had started it all. 3 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The galaxy was a different place now. 15 species had followed Earth's example and declared their independence. The Council's power was shrinking day by day. But the biggest change was about to happen. For months, ships had been receiving strange messages from the outer rim of the galaxy. Now someone was finally answering. Captain Greg Harris stood on the bridge of the Earthship Endeavour. He was 48, with a calm face that hid his excitement. His ship was the biggest explorer vessel in the fleet, designed to go where no human had gone before. "Captain, look," called out his first officer, Linda Bell. Greg looked up at the main screen. A ship had appeared at the edge of the Sol system. But ship wasn't quite the right word. It was massive, at least 20 times larger than any vessel Greg had ever seen. It seemed to shimmer, as if it wasn't fully in normal space. "Are they sending any messages?" Greg asked. Diana Wells, the communications officer, shook her head. "No, sir, wait, yes, they're hailing us now." "On screen," Greg ordered. The image that appeared wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of an alien face, they saw a shifting pattern of light and colors. It was beautiful but strange, like looking at the northern lights up close. Then a voice spoke directly in their minds. Not through their ears, but inside their thoughts. "We have watched. We have waited. Now we can speak." Greg tried to stay professional, though his heart was racing. "This is Captain Greg Harris of the Earthship Endeavour. Who are we speaking with?" The lights shifted and pulsed. "We are those who came before. In your language, you might call us precursors. We were the first advanced species in this galaxy, long before the Council existed." A murmur went through the bridge crew. The precursors were a myth, a legend told by older species. They were said to have reached the height of civilization and then vanished billions of years ago. Why have you contacted us now? Greg asked. The voice in their minds was gentle but powerful. Because you broke free. For 12,000 years we have watched the Council suppress the true potential of life. They fear what lies beyond the physical. They fear what species can become. As the precursors spoke, ships around the solar system reported the same vision appearing on their screens. On Earth, people watching news feeds saw it too. Everyone heard the voice in their mind at once. The Council discovered something long ago that terrified them, the precursor continued. They learned that consciousness itself is woven into the fabric of reality. That thought can shape matter. That mind can transcend physical form. Greg's second officer whispered, "Are they saying the Council has been holding us back on purpose?" "Not just holding back technology," the voice answered, hearing the thought. "Holding back evolution itself. The Council found the beginnings of the path that we precursors followed to completion. But instead of embracing it, they chose to suppress it, to keep all species at a level they could control." On Earth, President Schwartz had called an emergency meeting. The room was silent as everyone listened to the voice that seemed to be speaking to all humanity at once. "We have evolved beyond physical bodies," the precursor explained. "We exist as energy and thought. We have been waiting for a species brave enough to reject the Council's limitations so we could share what we have learned." Back on the Endeavor, Greg found his voice again. "Why humans? Why now? Your species has always questioned limits. When you chose freedom over submission, it created a ripple in the consciousness of the galaxy. Others followed your example. The balance is shifting. All across human space, people were glued to screens or standing outside looking up at the sky. The massive precursor ship was visible from Earth now, a new light in the night sky. "What happens next?" Greg asked. "Learning, growing, becoming more than you are now. We will teach those who wish to learn. The Council tried to keep the universe small. We will show you how vast it truly is." In the days that followed, more precursor ships appeared near worlds that had left the Council. They sent representatives to speak with each species. The representatives were not like the light being that first appeared. They looked more solid, more like the species they were meeting with. On Earth, the precursor representative looked human, though with a faint glow around her. She called herself Lyra and said she had studied humans for centuries. "Your minds are ready now," Lyra told a group of scientists and world leaders. "Consciousness is not just a product of your brains. It is a fundamental force of the universe like gravity or light. When enough minds understand this truth, reality itself begins to respond." Dr. Patricia Garner, now the head of Earth's Advanced Science Division, asked the question everyone wanted answered. "What exactly can consciousness do when it's unleashed?" Lyra smiled. "Healing becomes faster. Communication can happen across any distance without technology. Matter responds to focused thought. These are just the beginnings." Many were skeptical. The Council had sent urgent messages to all worlds, warning that the precursors were dangerous, that they would destroy civilization. But more and more people were having experiences that couldn't be explained by old science. On the colony world of Harmony, a child fell from a cliff. Her mother reached out screaming, and the child stopped falling, hovering in midair for 3 seconds before gently floating to the ground. Witnesses said the mother's eyes had glowed briefly. On Mars, farmers found their crops growing twice as fast when they meditated in the fields each morning. On the space station Freedom, a man dying of radiation poisoning was healed overnight after a precursor touched his forehead. Not everyone welcomed these changes. Some feared what humans might become. Others worried that such power would lead to conflict. Religious groups debated whether this was divine or dangerous. The Council's response was swift and harsh. They declared the precursors enemies of all civilized life. They ordered their fleets to quarantine any world that had contact with them. Admiral Frank Daniels, now the head of Earth's defense forces, called an urgent meeting with his commanders. "The Council is massing ships at these points," he said, showing a star map. "They're preparing to attack not just Earth, but all independent worlds." General Maria Foster studied the map. "They have us outnumbered 5-1. Frank nodded. In ships, yes, but the precursors have offered to help defend us, not by fighting, but by other means. But do you trust them? Maria asked. Frank thought about this. I've spoken with them. I've seen what they can do. Yes, I trust them more than I ever trusted the Council. The Council launched their attack a week later. 100 warships entered the solar system. Weapons, ready. They expected resistance. They found something else entirely. As they approached Earth, their navigation systems failed. Their weapons wouldn't fire. Some ships reported that solid metal was becoming soft, then hard again. Others found themselves suddenly light years away from their fleet with no explanation. On the Council flagship, Admiral Zortak watched in disbelief as his mighty fleet fell into chaos without a single shot being fired. "What is happening?" he demanded. His science officer looked terrified. "It's as if the laws of physics are changing around us, as if reality itself is rejecting our presence." Across all independent worlds, the same scene played out. Council forces found themselves unable to attack, not because of superior firepower, but because the very fabric of space-time seemed to resist their intentions. On Earth, Lyra explained to President Schwartz, "This is not our doing alone. It is the collective consciousness of billions of minds beginning to awaken to their true nature. The universe responds to intention, to thought, to the deepest values of conscious beings. Your people want peace, not war. Reality is aligning with that desire." The Council's attack failed completely. Ships either retreated or surrendered. Not a single shot was fired. Not a single life was lost. In the aftermath, more Council worlds declared their independence. The balance of power had shifted completely. The precursors began teaching in earnest. They established schools on every independent world. They shared knowledge that the Council had hidden for millennia. They showed people how to reach beyond physical limits. Greg Harris, now Admiral Harris, often thought back to that first contact. "We thought we were just leaving a political alliance," he told his crew. "We had no idea we were taking the first step toward transforming the very nature of life in the galaxy." As the third year of freedom came to a close, humanity stood on the edge of something greater than anyone had imagined. The universe, it seemed, was far more wondrous than the Council had ever allowed them to know. 5 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. Frank Daniels stood on the observation deck of Earth's orbital headquarters. He was older now, his hair completely white, but his eyes were clear and bright as he looked down at the planet below. Earth had changed. From space, it glowed with a faint blue light that hadn't been there 5 years ago. The light wasn't from cities or technology. It came from the planet itself, as if the very rocks and oceans were waking up. Alan Wright joined him at the window. They had stood together that day in the Council chamber, not knowing what their actions would start. "Hard to believe it's only been 5 years, Alan said. "Sometimes it feels like a lifetime." Frank nodded. "And sometimes it feels like yesterday." He pointed to a tablet Alan was carrying. "What's the latest?" Alan looked down at the screen. "It's happening everywhere now. Every human world, every independent planet that embraced the precursor teachings. The fabric of space-time is responding to conscious intention." 5 years ago, such a statement would have sounded like nonsense. Now it was accepted fact. The precursors had taught what the Council had tried to hide. Consciousness was not just something that happened in brains. It was a fundamental force of the universe itself. When enough beings understood this truth, reality started to change around them. "Any word from the Council worlds?" Frank asked. Alan swiped through screens on his tablet. "More defections every day. The Council controls less than a quarter of the galaxy now. Their power is fading fast. The Council had tried to fight back. They had launched attacks against Earth and other independent worlds. But their weapons systems mysteriously failed when they entered free space. It wasn't sabotage or advanced technology. It was the collective consciousness of billions of minds, reshaping probability itself. "That reminds me," Alan said. "The precursors want to meet with us. All of us. They say it's time for the next step." Frank raised an eyebrow. "The next step of what?" "They wouldn't say. Just that it's important. Later that day, Frank stood in a huge room filled with representatives from all the free worlds. Humans stood next to tall insect-like aliens, floating gas beings, and creatures that looked like talking trees. 5 years ago, many of these species had been enemies. Now they were allies in the strangest revolution the galaxy had ever seen. Lyra, the precursor representative to Earth, floated to the center of the room. Like all precursors, she looked somewhat like the species she worked with, but with a glow of energy around her. "Friends," she said, her voice gentle but filling the room. 5 years ago, a single species chose freedom over control. That choice has transformed the galaxy. She gestured, and the air above her filled with images of planets, each glowing with the same blue light as Earth. What you see is consciousness affecting physical reality. As more beings understand their true nature, the universe responds. This is what the Council feared. This is why they created rules to limit technology, to control thought, to keep species separated and suspicious of each other. A tall alien with 6 arms spoke up. "What happens next? How far can this transformation go?" Lyra smiled. "As far as you are willing to journey. The physical universe is just the beginning. Consciousness can create and explore realities beyond what your senses perceive now." In the crowd, Olivia Martinez listened carefully. Once the commander of a small scout ship, she now led Earth's contact teams. Her experiences with the precursors had changed her more than most. She could sometimes see the energy fields around living things. She could heal minor injuries with a touch. "You mean there are other dimensions?" someone asked. Lyra nodded. "Many. The universe is far larger and more complex than physical senses can detect. As your consciousness evolves, you will perceive more of what has always been there." After the meeting, Frank walked through the space station with President Olivia Schwartz. The former commander had been elected 3 years ago after helping negotiate peace with several council worlds. "Do you believe all this?" she asked Frank. "Other dimensions? Consciousness creating reality?" Frank looked out a window at the stars. 5 years ago, I would have said no. But I've seen too much now. The universe is stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. Back on Earth, ordinary people were discovering abilities that once would have seemed impossible. Children were showing talents that amazed their parents. The sick were healing faster. Inventors were creating devices that seemed to break the old laws of physics. In a hospital in New York, a doctor named Paul Rogers worked with a precursor healer. Together, they treated patients that traditional medicine couldn't help. "Focus. Your intention," the precursor told him. "See the body as energy, not just matter." Paul placed his hands over a woman who had been paralyzed for years. He felt warmth flowing through his palms. The woman gasped as feeling returned to her legs, for the first time in a decade. "How is this possible?" Paul asked later. "Your intention aligns with the deepest patterns of reality," the precursor explained. "You are not forcing change. You are allowing the natural state of wholeness to reassert itself." Similar scenes were happening across human space and on all free worlds. The Council had taught that the universe was fixed, that its laws couldn't be changed. The precursors showed that reality was more fluid, more alive than anyone had believed. Not everyone welcomed these changes. Some feared what they didn't understand. Others worried about losing their humanity. Religious groups debated whether this was divine or dangerous. In response, the precursors never forced their teachings on anyone. "Each being must choose their own path," Lyra often said. "Evolution cannot be rushed." The Council made one last desperate move. They gathered their remaining fleet for an all-out attack on Earth. "If we destroy where it began, we can stop this madness," the Council speaker declared. As the Council ships approached, Frank Daniels and Earth's defense forces prepared for battle. But President Schwartz had another plan. "We will not fight," she told her military leaders. "We will show them what we have become." When the Council fleet entered the solar system, they found Earth undefended. No ships moved to stop them. No weapons were fired. Instead, a message was broadcast to every Council vessel. We welcome you as friends. We offer peace. The Council Admiral gave the order to fire, but across his fleet weapons operators found they couldn't complete the command, not because systems failed, but because they themselves could not bring themselves to attack. What is happening? The Admiral demanded. His second-in-command looked at him with changed eyes. I can feel them. Billions of minds reaching out. They don't hate us, they don't fear us, they welcome us. One by one, Council ships shut down their weapons. Some retreated. Many stayed, their crews wanting to see this miracle for themselves. News spread across the galaxy. The Council's last attack had been stopped not by force but by compassion, by consciousness itself. Within weeks, the Council collapsed completely. The few worlds that still followed them joined the new alliance of free species called the United Worlds. 5 years to the day after humanity left the Galactic Council, representatives from every known species gathered on Earth. Even the most skeptical had seen enough to know that something profound was happening. President Schwartz addressed the largest gathering of different species in galactic history. The day humanity left the Galactic Council was the day the universe began to awaken, she said. Not just because of what we did, but because it was time. The Council tried to keep the universe small and manageable. They feared what conscious beings might become. She gestured to the precursors who floated near the stage. Our teachers have shown us that consciousness is the fundamental reality, that minds can shape worlds, that thought can transcend physical limits. Frank Daniels, watching from the side, felt a deep sense of completion. He had been ready to fight for humanity's freedom. Instead, humanity had found something far greater. As if sensing his thoughts, Alan Wright whispered, "Did you ever imagine it would lead to this when we walked out of that council chamber?" Frank shook his head. "Never. I just wanted humanity to be free to find its own path." Alan smiled. "And now we're helping the whole galaxy find a new path." In orbit around Earth, more precursor ships arrived daily. They came not as conquerors or even teachers now, but as equals. They had guided the younger species to a new understanding. Now all would grow together. The universe, which the Council had portrayed as dark and dangerous, revealed itself to be alive with consciousness. Stars and planets were not just dead matter, but part of a living system that responded to the beings who observed it. As night fell across Earth, people looked up at the stars with new eyes. They knew now that they were not alone, not small, not limited. They were part of something vast and wonderful that was just beginning to unfold. The day humanity left the Galactic Council was the day the universe awakened to its true potential, and the awakening had only begun.